first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the subtool menu. Now, if you all look at this, you can hover over your subtool and it'll show you how many polygons you have. It'll show you the total polygon count for the model, which is right down at the bottom here where it says total polys and total points. It'll tell you the poly count for the individual subtool. Now, if your subtool is only about 50,000 polys, then you really don't need to worry about decimating it. But once we start to get to the point where we're at, this polygon right here has 273,000 polygons. I'm probably going to take that and decimate it down to get it to be a lower polygon count. So the higher detailed parts of your model you're going to want to leave at a higher poly count, whereas the smaller or the less detailed portions you can reduce by a good amount. Now once I've selected on this subtool, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to Z plugin, which is right here. There's a little thing called Decimation Master. Now, decimation is basically going to reduce the overall polygon count of the model, but it's also going to reduce the detail a little bit. So typically, I tell people to kind of stay between the 35 to 75,000 polygon count on stuff that's like, like big things. Like I'm doing his vest right now, and I'm pretty sure I could decimate that down pretty low without destroying too much of the detail. So I'm going to take it down to 75,000 points here by just clicking this. And if you look up here, it's going to process for a second, and then once it's done processing, it's going to read the GOZ file, the GOZ file, and it's going to finish decimating here. All right, so it's now decimated, and I'm going to zoom in just to kind of check it out to see how bad it is. All right, so if I look at it now, you see how there's like these little like facets now. It's still keeping like the curves and the detail that I put in there, but the facets are kind of reduced. That's going to make the file smaller and more easily sliced by the 3D slicing software. So I'm going to move on to the head now. Now the head is my highest poly count model, and I'm actually going to leave that alone. I'm not going to decimate it because I don't want to wreck the detail in the face. So it's at 700,000, which is fine. As long as we're under like 1 million polygons at the end of it, we should be good to go. The file shouldn't be too massive. All right, so here we've got 32,000, which is fine. This one's at 108. It's a hand and a sword, so I'm actually going to go ahead and decimate this too, just one at a time here. So I'm going to take it down to like 35,000 and see what it looks like. Oh, and you can undo decimation. So if you decimate it too much and it looks like dookie, you can undo it. All right. So we got 97,000, 32,000. So I'm going to take the 97 one down again to Z plugin 35. So I kind of go by the old thirds rule of thumb. So if you're reducing the poly count by about a third, then you should be okay, or to a third of what it was. So if it's at 90,000, you can take it to 30,000. That'd be fine. But anything that's below 30,000 or below 50,000, I really wouldn't bother with. So that's 20. This one is 32. This one is 130. So yeah, that's way too much for a wristband. So I'm going to go ahead and take that down. Oh, and when you're decimating, sometimes it'll hide parts of your model. Like if you look at it, his arm has disappeared. And that's okay because we can just scroll back up and unhide it. All right, this one is also at a really high poly count, so it's because I was carving all these little lines in it and I wanted it at a high poly count, so now I'm just gonna decimate it down. Oof, this one's high. That's his pants. Yeah, like clothing parts, stuff that's going to be fairly large, you can decimate it down to 35,000 points without losing much detail. And you definitely, before you decimate the next part, you definitely want to wait for it to finish processing. What's that? No, don't quick save afterwards. Actually, you want your original file in case something gets messed up and you need to go back to it. So after you've decimated your model, you're going to want to. I mean, you can create a new file that's the decimated version, basically save as, and you can call it the name of your file and then DEC for decimated. That way, if you want to get back to the original high detail model, Z plugin, Decimation Master. Let's take a look at it. Oh wow. Okay. So it has 200,000 polygons. All right, so I'm going to take this one down to 35. So yeah, you're basically going to keep going kind of along the way here, just decimating the parts one by one. Some people merge their thing together first and then decimate it. I wouldn't recommend doing that because you won't have control over the individual detail of the individual pieces, which I like to have a high level of control over that stuff. And the lower polygon models are going to decimate faster. The higher poly models are going to decimate a little slower. $15,000, $39,000. Take that down to 20. Take this down to 20. All right, so that's the whole point. Obviously, you would go down and decimate all the different subtools. So once you're finished decimating your model, it'll be time to merge it together. Today we're just going to grab a mouse and do this with a mouse because it is much easier to do this process with a mouse than it is to do it with the pen tablet. So you'll just come down here onto your subtool menu and you'll click merge. And I'm starting with this top subtool and I'm just going to hit merge down. Because I know I'm going to be merging my whole model, I'm just going to hit always OK, skip this note until the next restart. This way I don't have to click, 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 click. So this way I can just merge the whole model together all at once, just like this. Just merging it all by clicking merge down a whole bunch of times. So now that I've got it all merged together into one subtool, this is when we're going to export it. So the way we export it is we go up to the top menu here where it says the tool menu and we hit export. Now it's going to default to an OBJ file. I do not want an OBJ file. I actually want an STL. Okay? So basically what you're going to do is you're going to switch from OBJ to STL. And then we're going to call it, the name of your file. So you'll call it your name first, like your last name or your first name, and then you'll hit underscore, and then his name is Dante, so that's what I'm going to call him. And then I'm going to call it, merge. And this is the file you're going to be uploading in the project space. So like when you go to turn the project, this is the file you're uploading. Okay, so that way I can download it, I can hollow it, and I can get it ready for printing. Okay, so you're basically going to save it as an STL file, and go ahead and just throw it in your digital art folder, and you'll just hit save. Now it's going to bring open a dialog box. This dialog box will tell you, there's some different things here that you can choose. We're going to make sure it's as BIN or binary, and then you're just going to hit OK. And when it exports, it's going to give you a little thing that says file was successfully exported. Okay, so this is, now you've exported your file, and then you're basically going to just close out of ZBrush, and it's going to ask you if you want to save your changes, and you're going to say no.